Hello, welcome to a cold Belfast. My name is Barry Flynn. I'm here to talk about my latest book, which is the Little Book of Irish Football. And where else would you begin than the oldest football club on the island of Ireland, Cliftonville Football Club, established 1879. So, where does football begin in Ireland? Here, of course. Now, there's a story that a guy called John McAleary, who owned a tweed shop in Belfast, he went to Glasgow on his honeymoon and he saw a game of what was called soccer, association football. So he came back to Belfast and wanted to establish the sport, and in 1879 he put an advert in the newspaper saying, we are going to form a club, and that was Cliftonville. Football has been played here since 1890. Unbroken has Cliftonville Football Club been at this particular ground called Solitude. Now, I used to think it was called Solitude because not many people turned up and you got a bit of peace and quiet, but no, this is a hotbed of Irish footballing history. Cliftonville were established in 1879. A year later, the Irish Football Association was established. But unfortunately, in 1921, just as the island was partitioned, so too was football. This is the fabulous White House, a listed building. It was the changing rooms originally at Solitude, but also when this used to be an international ground, this is where all the teams posed before they went out on the pitch. You can see it's a listed building now. They're looking money to do it up, but this is in the fabric of the history of Irish football. So in this small island, we have got two football associations. One for the northeast, called the Irish Football Association, and one for the rest of the island called the Football Association of Ireland. It's complicated, bear with me. Politics and sport in Ireland go hand in hand, and our most recent troubles in Northern Ireland, this area we are in, North Belfast, has a horrendous history. And I want to tell you a story about one individual who lost his arm at the age of 14. Jimmy Hasty was his name, and he went on to become a stellar goal scorer in local soccer. In 1974, 38-year-old Jimmy, less than a quarter of a mile from where we are today, was shot dead and became yet another innocent, bland statistic in our troubles. But his story's in this book, and it's going to be there forever, as are hundreds of others. But beyond the checkered history, there's also a history of characters, of laughter, of pain. To be an actual football supporter on the island of Ireland, you need a highly developed sense of the ridiculous. Now, one of those great people with a sense of the ridiculous was Danny Blanchflower. Born in Belfast, he was famous for a quote in 1958 in Sweden about Ireland's tactics on the field. He says, we aim to equalise before the other team score. My goodness, what a bit of wisdom. It got Ireland to the quarterfinals that year. There are stories from every corner of the island of Ireland that'll make you think, will amuse you and make you say, I never knew that, but I want to pay tribute to one footballer who I met once and will never forget. His name was George Best. I was a young lad working in the Europa Hotel. I was sent up to a table to actually take a drinks order from George Best, and I knew I was in the presence of greatness. He gave me a £2 tip that night. George Best, he's in the book as well. But this book is a compendium of the fascinating, obscure and entertaining stories about the beautiful game on the Emerald Isle. We explore the division in football, the famous players and teams that have stolen the headlines over the decades, and this is a reliable and quirky guide you can dip into time and time again. It's not about football per se, totally. It's about Ireland, a society, and how football grew within that society. So it's fitting we're here at a historic ground. When I think of the ghosts of the players who played here, Ireland's first floodlit game took place here in 1891, when they only had 6 lights working and there was different shades of darkness from what the spectators saw. This is history, but also across the island. Football grounds like this have stories to tell, and I hope I've brought these stories out in this book, because you can feel the ghosts of yesteryear as you walk through Solitude. What is Irish football given to the world? I can tell you, the penalty kick. William McCrum from County Armagh, he invented the penalty kick, so all that pain and misfortune that people go through, and the joy, was invented by a guy from County Armagh and brought to the world by the Irish Football Association. By the way, folks, if I've been calling this the Little Book of Irish Football, for those of you outside the British Isles, it's the Little Book of Irish Soccer. So from one bit of history, I look behind me and I can see a bit of history in the background. that tells the story of Belfast, its beautiful Cave Hill, and how appropriate it looks over Ireland's oldest football ground, Solitude.